Hello everyone, my name is Enrique Cardona and welcome to another review, and this time I'm going to talk about X-Men 97 episode 4 Motendo slash Lifedeath. Now, if you want to know my thoughts on the other two episodes, three episodes, because in total there were three, the two of them were released at the same time, and I reviewed the third one. So if you want to know my thoughts on those, please check out my videos. You won't regret it. And as far as we concerned, this is basically, I don't know, maybe a lot of people are going to consider this episode to be like the weakest one of the season. But honestly, I enjoy it a lot and for very specific reasons. In many respects, it feels like back to basics for us, basically. Because normally in any cartoon that we watch, we always have like two episodes, like mini episodes comprise in half hours, like 10 minutes one story, and then 10 minutes the other story, depending on how long they take to tell it. It all depends. But yeah, we got that in X-Men 97. And in this case, we got two stories, the story of Jubilee and the story of Storm. We're going to see how they are both dealt with in this episode. So sit back, enjoy, because this is my review of Motendo slash Lifedeath. So the episode starts very simple. Jubilee is now 18 years old and she wants to celebrate her birthday like with total sparks, total shines, with everybody paying attention to her. But since Magneto is now the new leader of the X-Men and is trying to maintain control of the house, it seems that he's trying to remind Jubilee that she needs to grow up, that she cannot be a child anymore, and that she needs to just let go of everything that is very childish and just embrace the adulthood like a real person. This makes Jubilee a little bit angry because she wants to enjoy things in her life. After all, she's a mutant. She had to be going from house to house. And this is the first time that she's celebrating her 18th birthday alongside a family that she never thought that it would last very long. But thankfully, she got a great family, a great friend in Wolverine. But more importantly, this episode is not only focusing on her, but also in her relationship with Roberto, aka Sunspot. Now, Roberto is there trying to tell Jubilee to grow up as well, trying to tell her that sometimes video games are not always good, that try to be more mature. And obviously, Jubilee doesn't want to hear those things. But she still invites Roberto to her bedroom in order to play some video games. In this case, a video game console called Motendo, which is honestly one of the cartridges that has a video game, has one of the few logos or posters from some games from X-Men from the 90s. I like that compliment. I like that reference. But yeah, basically with that, that's where starts the plot, as we see that the Motendo console is actually trapping both Roberto and Jubilee into a video game simulation. And guess who is doing all this? Well, the guy who we saw a long time ago and likes to do games, dangerous games, and entertainment for himself and his audience. And that is none other than Mojo Vision. Yeah, the guy that kidnapped the team a long time ago in season 2 of X-Men, the original one, in which he actually tried to not only make people compete in his arena of death and put the X-Men into these ridiculous games, but also by making everybody go nuts. I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy is like the couch potato with legs, and he looks unbelievably disturbing. But I will say this, he when we first saw him, he looks very thin, only to realize that was just a trick. Now, one of the things that I should mention is that we got new voiceovers for Mojo. In this case, we got David Arrigo Jr. as the new voice of Mojo Vision. I can't remember what was the original one, but yeah, this is a new voice of Mojo Vision. And basically, he puts both Jubilee and Roberto in this classic video game scenarios in which Jubilee and Roberto have to fight all the original villains that they had to face back when they were beginning at the X-Men. Basically, when she was starting as an X-Men, she had to go through a lot of levels where she was finding parts of her life in the past. We get references from original episodes and comics. We see Sentinels and Magneto as video game villains and final boss battles. We see the Mojo Vision is trying to get Jubilee to be in the Motendo console forever, which is something that she's actually enticed because she doesn't want to grow up, which is understandable. And that's part of what I like about this episode. In this case, because we get to see not only Jubilee having a lot of grow up issues as well as having a crisis of not wanting to grow up, you know, the Peter Pan complex and wanting to stay young forever because she feels that getting older is getting hard. And that's understandable. But the good thing is that she is not only not alone anymore, but she's developing more and more maturity. And I really enjoy that. Part of the reason for that is because a lot of people have a lot of issues with Jubilee when she was in the original episode because they saw her as nothing more than just a naive kid being always in the show. Whenever the episodes are about her, they are more normally boring or annoying because she is always being portrayed as a damsel in distress or having the powers of fireworks, not being taken as seriously. But honestly, that's something that she gets a very, very bad rap. And this episode says not only Jubilee gets to be more mature, but also allow her to go through an arc of growing up and actually showing that she is a capable superhero. That's one of the biggest strengths of this entire season of X-Men 97. They take characters that back in the day they were great, but they were not fleshed out enough. And now that we got to this point, not only the majority of the characters are fleshed out, but also given interesting story arcs. I'm gonna get that with Storm in a moment, but needless to say, this is Jubilee's half episode, and I enjoy it. And more importantly, we get an important cameo for this episode. In this case, with Jubilee and Roberto going into the final level, we get to see someone who has been helping her along the game and along these levels. And that is a woman called Abishka. Sorry, Abisha. I think I pronounced it well. Now, Abisha turns out that it was an older version of Jubilee. But you know what's interesting about this? The original voice of Jubilee, Alison Court, is actually Abisha. So basically, we got two Jubilees interacting back to back. Now keep in mind, the new voice of Jubilee is Holly Chow, which is a Chinese actress who, for many years, a lot of people had complaints that in the show, in the original one, was voiced by a white woman. But Alison Court is such a great voiceover actress that we all let it pass. So that's not in mind here. But I really enjoy this interaction between one another. Seeing the original Jubilee talking to the new one, or at the very least, seeing the young Jubilee talking to the older one and trying to figure out where to go and what to do. I actually enjoy that from this episode, and it shows us why we care about this. It's almost feels like very reminiscent to the Spider-Man No Way Home cameos when Toby and Andrew interacted with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and the three of them went out to kick ass. This is that episode. That is the episode that a lot of us really, really enjoy, and it gave Jubilee the necessary challenges to make sure that she grew up. Now, at the end of the episode, after they defeat Mojo Vision, Jubilee finally understands what it's been to grow up, what it's like to grow up, and she ends up kissing Roberto. Yeah, Jubilee is finally leaving her persona of being always a damsel in distress behind and helping not only Roberto to go through the same arc, but also to see her in a relationship. We almost got that in the original episode, but we never got that. And it's good to see that both Jubilee and Roberto are finally together and that they are now interacting with one another. And seeing Jubilee growing up, that's totally incredible. So, yeah, definitely enjoyed this part of the episode. Now, let's talk about the other one that is the half of it, which is Life Death. Now, for those of you who don't know or you haven't seen the last episodes, Storm lose her powers after getting hit by one of the laser beams that the Executioner had, in which took away the powers of any mutant. And in this case, it took away the powers of the weather from Storm. So now she's having a lot of problems. I mean, when the goddess of the weather loses her powers, what are you going to do? What is she going to do? And where does she go? And that's what this episode is. Now, the comics, this is based on the comics called Lifedeath as well. That's why it's called the Lifedeath in this episode. Although I should probably mention that is not the entire story, because they made it clear that this is part one of the story Lifedeath. And that is Storm confronting not only the fact that she doesn't have powers, but also trying to figure out how to regain them, because she feels like she could go and get back her powers, because the weapon couldn't take away her powers in in her entirety. She believes that there is still hope, and the hope comes from unexpected places. In this case, from one of his allies from back from the original series, which is in this case Forge. Now, Forge, for those who don't know, is a mutant. But his powers are more about his intellectual genius and his ability to be very crafty with his technology. He actually made a robot leg from whatever he had and made it so unbreakable and indestructible from any other type of immunity, or at the very least any type of attack. Now, Forge is voiced by Gil Birmingham, so it's good to hear that he's doing this voice. And more importantly, it's good to see Forge and Storm just trying to figure out what to do. We get a little bit of a backstory for Forge, and seeing him that he has feelings for Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, and trying to figure out how to help her. But something that I didn't expect was realizing that Forge was the man responsible for the colors that negate all the human powers or all the mutant powers from the mutants. So that is shocking on itself. And to see that he might have something to do from what is happening with the Sentinels. But we're going to get that a little bit. But for now, yeah, Storm is trying to figure out what to do, confronting all sorts of things, including personal demons. I cannot say that much, but basically Storm is trying her best to figure out what to do. And let me tell you, the acting from Alison Saley Smith is amazing. She is really being put to the ringer in this episode. It's not going to be the last time we're going to see her, but it's good to see that she is fighting like hell to get what she once knew about herself back, and trying to not only go back to be the way that she was as a mutant, but also figure out how to help people and how to forgive Forge for essentially taking away her powers, or at the very least being the man responsible for these kind of actions, which forms into a romance as well. So yeah, we got 2 episodes about the woman having a romance between the men that they from different ethnicities. So I kind of like that. But yeah, that is. But for now, we don't know what happens to Storm until the next Life Death Part 2. So stay tuned for that review as well. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the episode. I think a lot of people will not think that they are great. Maybe they think that it's unnecessary to have 2 episodes in one series, or at the very least to have 2 parts of an episode in this at the same time. But I personally enjoy it, and it's refreshing to me at the very least. If nothing more, to see Jubilee grow and to see the story of Storm continue. That's my opinion at the very least. But let's not stop right there. For next week, we're going to talk about probably the most shocking episode of the entire season. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. So, I'm Enrique, and I'll see you next time. Take care, true believers.